Hello, and welcome to the Irish Guys podcast. This is our second recorded podcast for our nerd section, or nerd culture section, whichever way you want to put it. We're going to be covering sort of movies, TV, games, maybe a few other different things like books and things, sort of like. I think we've got
A wide variety of things.
Nerd stuff.
Anime,
Whatever we get to.
whatever tickles our fancy at the
Whatever
time.
tickles our fancy. We're going to be covering a wide variety of things. This is our first podcast that we're recording here with everybody in the room, so all four of us are here.
I'm not hungover today.
Griffey's not hungover, so we've got him. He missed our Star Wars trilogy pitch, so this is the first one we have everybody in the room. We're all going to be covering different topics. We're going to have our American sports section, and we're going to have our football section as well, but we'll try and get, I think most of us will be in the room for our nerd stuff, I think.
Hopefully.
Maybe not me. I'm sort of the least one in here.
Yeah, Dave's weird.
Aye. So we've got Tom. Say hello, Tom.
Right.
Big Crippy.
Hello, Kirby.
Good joke, Dave. And hello, Vesty.
Well, Dave, how are you getting on?
Not too bad. Not too bad.
You're keeping well.
You're going to be the really friendly guy in this podcast. If
well,
anybody listens to this, they're going to be like, oh, well, he's very nice, handsome.
I think
You're not handsome.
it's just being polite, you know.
Aye.
Off air, it's different.
It's
You know,
different.
it's
Our
different.
hatred towards each other sort of bled into the last our NFL topic one, didn't
It did, yeah. But
little
there'll
bit.
be, that's if you stick around with this podcast, you'll get to see all that unfold.
it?
Mm-hmm.
So today we're gonna be covering Tarantino.
Our favourite Tarantino films.
Our favorite Tarantino films. We're gonna sort of make a pitch on why this is the best one. Now we're sort of nitpicking a bit, sort of splitting hairs a bit. I think everybody really enjoys most of Tarantino's films, if not all.
Aye. All four of these movies are going to be in my top 20 movies of all time. I do
Aye.
enjoy all of them, so I mean...
Mm-hmm.
There's not going to be too much to separate, but we've all kind of got our favourites. I don't think anybody's really been dealt one that
Isn't their favourite?
No.
I think we're all good.
It's hard not to like anything by Tarantino, really.
It is.
Yeah.
The Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was sort of out before Christmas, so we thought it's sort of semi-topical that we'll cover a bit of Tarantino. But I'm going to be pitching Reservoir Dogs. I think, Tom, what are you going for? Django. Christopher?
I'll be going Pulp Fiction, my all-time favourite movie.
And I'll be
Yes,
doing the Hateful Eight.
The Hateful Eight. That's not bad. It's a good wee spread. We'll do okay. We're gonna just start off, and does anybody wanna go first particularly?
I'll go first.
Best
That'll
stepping
do.
up.
That'll
that
do.
bit.
We'll pass it round to the right.
That'll do.
I'll go first. So I'm going with the Hateful Eight, which is the 8th installment of Tarantino's film. His 8th film, rather. So the plot is basically... You've all watched it, haven't you?
Uh-huh,
Yeah.
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 So for anybody that's listening and hasn't listened to it or hasn't seen it, the plot consists of John Ruth, who is more or less taken in a gang member, Daisy Gomergu, in to be hanged at Red Rock. As he's taken her on a stagecoach across this mountain, there's a snowstorm, and basically he comes upon Major Marquez Warren. John Ruth is played by Kurt Russell, and Warren's played by Samuel L. Jackson.
I was sort of thinking prior to this to sort of make our pitch for the best one. It's gotta be hard to like separate cast because
They're all
most
good.
of the most of the
Tarantino is... you know,
recast as actors. He likes who he likes, doesn't he?
he likes who he likes and doesn't like who he doesn't like. And
Aye.
it's the way it is.
So Marquez Warren is sort of stranded because his horses died during the storm, and he's carrying in 3 dead bounties that he's also taken into Red Rock.
Mm-hmm.
So after some slight concerns about trusting him, he decides that John Ruth decides that he gives them the benefit of the doubt, and they make an agreement to help see each other through the storm and into Red Rock with their bounties, and if they stick together. As they come up through the mountain, they come across a fella known as Chris Mannix. He's actually coming in to be the new sheriff.
Do you
in
know
Red
where I
Rock.
couldn't picture that actor?
Mm.
Like I was watching that the first time I watched it, and my head was completely
Racked.
wrecked.
Walton Goggins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could not
Yeah.
picture who the hell he was.
I know
And
where
then
you got the
he's the
sons.
friggin' transvestite
Yeah.
from
Sons
Sons of
of
Anarchy.
Anarchy, yeah.
Baffled.
When you see
Yeah.
him, you're transfixed, and you're
Yeah.
thinking, I've seen this guy somewhere.
And it's because he was dressed as a tranny. You're kind of
It doesn't hit you immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
He's a great actor.
He
I really
is.
like him.
He was damn good. He was really, really good playing a transvestite in Sons
Alright.
of Anarchy, but go ahead.
So he's also stranded. They also take him on the stagecoach, and they get to know each other a wee bit throughout the journey. So they end up coming to Winnie's haberdashery, as it's called, and they meet a fella there. He's a Mexican fella. They're not familiar with him, haven't seen him around before. So eventually they make a deal that they get the horses untied and put into the stable, and they go inside, and they find that the haberdashery is full of like 4 or 5 different people, and one fella who's played by Tim Roth is known as Oswaldo Mowbray.
He said he was going to do accents, and I wasn't too happy with it, and now he's done accents.
There's no going back now.
There's no going back now. This isn't going to be a regular feature, you doing bad accents, Vesty, either.
Oh, well, you know, I want to enhance the experience for the listening, for the listeners.
I'm sure it does.
I don't see that taking off in any way.
Shape or form.
Jealousy's an awful thing, boys. So they get inside the haberdashery to find 3 or 4 different guys. Immediately John Ruth is suspicious, and he goes around the cabin and disarms them all. Warren, that he came along with, he sort of has his back, so the two of them sort of stick together, and they sort of stay close during all this. They find it quite suspicious because Winnie herself, Winnie's haberdashery, she isn't there, and the guys that are there inform her that she's away to visit her mum who's sick, and basically these 2 guys aren't buying it. There's suspicion amongst them already as to why she's not here, and the place is filled with strangers. But because the snowstorms due to last few days, they do expect that since they're here in the cabin, that they will be here for a few days. So basically that brings us into where the movie more or less takes 80 to 90% of the whole film is paced inside this one room.
It's a very good character. He likes getting really into characters, and
he's just throwing a bunch of personalities into one room. Just
real character pieces, like it's nothing about too much of anything.
Nothing
just
flashy anyway.
Well, to be fair, Django's the only one that's, well, I suppose, but Django's probably the most expansive nearly out of the lot.
But it is very character based too. A lot of it, you know.
So the movie continues on, and the characters sort of get to know each other a wee bit. Shortly afterwards, there's coffee that's been poisoned, and it kills.
I'd like to poison your coffee at times, Vesty.
Aye. Agreed.
This isn't about me. We continue this off air, and we'll sort out who wants to kill who off air. But this is strictly about Tarantino.
That's anywhere I'm killing you off, so we can split the pot 3 ways. You know.
You shouldn't tell me things like that, Dave. I'm always one step ahead.
It'll be too late.
So basically Warren breaks down. John Ruth is killed by drinking the coffee, and so is the other fella. There's another fella, OB, he's killed as well. Warren breaks down of what may have happened about the ordeal. He decides that they're all in cahoots with each other, and one way or another that they're all here for one reason, and he reckons that it possibly is to stop, Daisy Domergue, who was John Roos' prisoner, to try and get her back, or
stop getting the bounty on
her. So eventually the chaos sort of unfolds, and Mowbray and Daisy's held by gunpoint, and they threaten to kill her, and then the movie, just before this happens, the movie sort of cuts back as to what happens before. So it's like before they arrived and before the storm arrived, it shows Channing Tatum, he's Daisy Garmague's brother, so he comes to the cabin with his members of the gang, and they come in, and everything's fine. They're going in, they're having coffee, and they're chatting away, and then they more or less kill Minnie and the couple of guys that are already there.
Spoiler alert.
So
we should have definitely put that. If you haven't watched 4 Tarantino films, what the hell are you doing with your life?
Aye, what are you doing? How did you stumble upon this podcast if you haven't watched the Tarantino?
You shouldn't be listening if you haven't watched Tarantino. No. So basically, Tarantino does that in the middle of the film. Anyway, he breaks down of how they got there. So more or less, the Domergue gang's there to try and intercept Daisy Domergue being taken in by John Ruth, and they're going to obviously kill off Ruth when they get him. But the whole time, whenever John Ruth and Marquez Warren lands, they're all underneath, or Channing Tatum's character is underneath the cabin. He's under the floorboards, while the rest of the gang's up playing like random innocent members of the public. One guy, Joe Gage, who's played by a Tarantino favorite, Michael Madsen. He's been in a few Tarantino films.
Oh, he's in Reservoir.
He's in Reservoir. So he's playing like some fella, some lone ranger who's going like to see his mum or something, whatever. So everybody's playing like a role that they don't know each other.
It's like a fancy game of Clue.
It's like a fancy.
There's some good characters in the Hateful Eight too, like the Southern General and stuff too,
the
and the
old guy.
link, and the link then between him and Samuel L. Jackson's character's class, and about his son.
About his son.
About his son.
Oh, it's sick. Like
we're also really trying not to like really lean on the heavy racism that's in all of Tarantino films. We're trying to
and the foot fetish. Can't forget about the foot fetish.
We're trying to sort of skirt around them issues. We don't want the podcast ripped down and everybody torn apart before we even get up and going. So
that latest one of his had the most blatant offense in terms of like his foot fetish. Have you seen the film?
Oh, Margot Robbie's.
No, not even hers. It's like some hippie girl. She just plants her feet right on the window of a car, and the camera's like dead center.
Every movie.
So blatant.
As good as he is, he's a weird dude.
You have to be weird to be a creative genius.
What's out there? The fine line between crazy and genius is what, like paper
fine line.
A fine line, or whatever the hell it is.
Definitely.
Go ahead, Vest.
The movie just continues on, and then to more or less, they're going to shoot Daisy Darmagoo, and then eventually, as they're ready to kill her, then Channing Tatum's character, her brother, comes out of up onto the floor. Movie just then continues of like a mass shootout. A few characters start getting killed off, and obviously Mannix, the guy that John Ruth and Warren picked up at the start, Maddox sticks close to Warren because he trusts him about breaking down the whole coffee poison incident, so that sort of keeps them two together. But during the shootout, they obviously get shot as well. I mean, before Daisy Darmagoo's brother comes up, he shoots through the floorboards and shoots Warren. So they're all injured. They're all basically frigged. Like, they're all basically in bad nick. But the movie obviously ends with...
There's always so many good scenes in his movies too.
Yeah.
It's all like iconic scenes that you just go, that's class. Like even
anytime you watch a Tarantino movie, and the second time you watch it and the third time you watch it, you pick up on things.
There's way more things.
You need layered films, like
you enjoy Tarantino films the more you watch them. The first time you watch it, you're figuring out stuff. The second time you're watching it, you know the plot, but you're picking up on a lot more things.
It's all that non-linear storytelling and all too. Like
storytelling.
Three different story or like timelines going on at the same time or prior.
Yeah.
All that, it's very good. Like,
see some of them videos you'd even see on like YouTube and stuff, like doing like a total breakdown of the film, like just pointing out things that you just would not have picked up in, at all. They literally pointed across to you, and you're just baffled at how much detail he's put into everything.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. Like,
and the movie more or less ends with Darmagoo sawing off John Ruth's hand because she's been handcuffed the whole time to John Ruth. So like he's dead, and then she they chop off his arm, which is still attached to hers.
Shot in the footy, like blows it. That's the foot fetish thing, and that one. He shoots her toes off.
And the movie ends with Mannix and Warren lying absolutely nicked in the bed because they're like they're gonna like bleed out and die, but like they basically like their last sort of like moment of enjoyment is like watching her hang for John Roof's sort of like what his one ambition was to watch her hang, and they hang her inside the haberdashery. And the movie just sort of ends with them reading the Lincoln Ladder, and then obviously they probably do bleed out and die because it's a storm, and they're not going to get out of there for 2 or 3 days. But it sort of ends on that sort of note that everybody's not going to get out. They're all going to die one way or another.
It's always the way. Like he sort of just leaves it on a stop finish, doesn't he?
Oh, it's always for you to figure out what happens next, which is always good too.
And one good thing about that film with the Hateful Eight is that they're all hateful bastards. Like there's no there's none.
If you've ever watched a Tarantino film, they're always all hateful.
But there's no.
Nobody's particularly nice.
No, but it's like there's no. You don't really know who's a good guy or who's potentially maybe the better person, because and like Django, there is some good characters in it, and there is a bit of purpose to maybe him getting away with his wife in the end or whatever. But in this film here, it's about 8 hateful people, and there's no good, they're just all bad, but at the same time you're watching it the whole time thinking who's going to be the guy that outclasses everyone, or who's going to be the guy that's going to come out on top. But no, as the title says, they're all hateful, and
and there's 8 of them.
But it's a really good movie, and I think it doesn't get enough credit. I know it's only out now 5 years, 2015, so it's out 5 years ago, but it doesn't get enough love, and it gets very poor scores on Rotten Tomatoes, which I do not rate at one way or another because it just gives false.
It's so strange. Rotten Tomatoes. There's movies that are on it that are like
really good.
You totally agree with the thing, and then there's I
You
don't know what way it ranks it. Like I'm not sure, but
you're nearly better going with the audience rating. They will tell you what
the
a
critic
film
ratings.
is. You know,
critics are kid.
they love artsy fartsy, you know, Golden Globes, you know, all the stuff that gets put forward in the Oscars.
Any films at the Oscars. Like
there's so many.
I'm not gonna lie, like the Revenant, I disliked it. I thought it was very boring.
But it's
very
like,
boring.
It was more to do with like the shooting of it. Like it was.
It was
crazy.
a cinematic, you know, masterpiece and all that, but with no entertainment in it, it's
very slow. Like
nice to look at. Like
even that the Irishman that was out there, like good film and all, but still very
just
very
a
slow.
Slog,
Very slow.
I haven't braved myself to watch it yet, so I don't know if
it's
I.
Alright, like
it is it's Scorsese, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's the big hitters like for.
Yeah.
But
do you know? Sorry to interject, lad, but just while it's fresh in my head, do you see that 1917? That's an amazing film. You all should watch.
Looks good.
Watched it.
It does look really
quite
good.
recently. The way it is shot. Oh my god, it is incredible.
Guy Ritchie's new film is out as well, The Gentleman. It's
the links
very
between to sort of wind it back to Tarantino, like that sort of like non-lineal storytelling and all that like Guy Ritchie does, where there's about 6 different. It's very like he's the British Tarantino, really. Like I love Guy Ritchie's films. They're unreal.
They're so good.
I can't wait to see that Gentleman.
Nah, it's really really good. Like, but no, that's pretty much the plot of my movie from Tarantino and the Hateful Eight, and we'll just go around the table and get the rest of your ideas or the rest of your movies and the outline of them, and then at the end of it we'll sort of
debate
a wee bit. Dev, we'll move on to you, seeing as you're right in front of me.
That'll do. Well, obviously, as mentioned before, my favourite movie, probably of all time, not just Tarantino, was Pulp Fiction.
He's got a bad motherfucker wallet.
Yes, I do have a bad motherfucker wallet. Funny story about that there. I had a bad motherfucker wallet, it got ruined, I bought another bad motherfucker wallet, the exact same one, and then it got ruined, and I bought another one. So for the past 12 to 13 years, I've had 3 of the exact same wallet, and I'm going to buy another one.
I would like to know what happened to them wallets at another time, though.
Well, you know, wallets eventually die out. Like, you know, wallets don't last forever. But anyway,
he must have been thinking there's like a story to it.
Aye, because like, you know, there's always a story with Devil May Know about things that go missing, or you know, I just wanna know like.
But I was having a look at Pulp Fiction, and I'm gonna go into a bit of, you know, why it's my favorite movie and why I think it's the best Tarantino movie. I haven't went as deep into the plot as Vesti, but you know, so the plot basically follows 2 mob hitmen, a boxer, a gangster, and his wife, and a pair of diner bandits. Love the diner bandits. It's basically the 4 tales intertwining. It's like, you know, basically a story of violence and redemption for certain characters. The cast is basically John Travolta plays Vincent Vega, Samuel L. Jackson plays Jules, Bruce Willis plays Butch, great cast. Tim Roth plays Ringo slash Pumpkin. Then you have Uma Thurman playing Mia Wallace, Harvey Keitel playing Winston Wolfe. Great character. TV ads might have ruined him a bit, but you know, great character.
To anybody listening that's not in the UK, there's really bad TV ads that sell insurance, isn't it, or something?
Sell car insurance with Winston Wolfe.
Winston Wolfe, Harvey Keitel, like, and you're just going, that's horrendous. But anyway.
And then, of course, you have Amanda Plummer, who is Yolanda / Honey Bunny, and you know, there's actually a dance group named after her, Yolanda Be Cool.
You love that.
It was a terrible song, but you know, everybody has their guilty pleasures. And then you have Christopher Walken, who plays Captain Coons.
Christopher Walken, like.
You have Eric Schultz as Lance. And then, of course, Tarantino himself plays Jimmy, who's one of my favourite characters in the movie.
Jimmy. So shady.
But the movie itself has got plenty of awards. It won the Palme d'Or Award at the Cannes Film Festival. And it was nominated for 7 awards at the Academy Award, including Best Picture. It won the Best Original Screenplay. John Travolta, Jackson, and Thuman all got Academy Award nominations.
It's definitely like the Pulp Fiction's definitely the big hitter when it comes to Tarantino, isn't it really?
Oh, like even you know, as you were saying earlier about the online, you know, it got 9 out of 10 IMDb, 94% Metacritic, 92% in Rotten Tomatoes, which is the best out of all his films. You know, I like Django got 87, Inglourious got 89, Reservoir 91.
It's going to annoy me a little bit that we'll need to talk a wee bit about Inglourious, I think, at some point in this.
Oh, yeah.
Like, we're not covering Inglourious, but it's brilliant as well.
Yeah. And then the film actually, it cost $8.5 million to make and made $234 million at the box office. Which is crazy for a second film. Like,
I'd say with the inflation on that as well now.
Even that like it's maybe like 94 or something, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That would be a crazy gross.
And Roger Ebert, the big film critic, called Pulp Fiction the most influential independent movie of all time. It did so much for independent films. I just love the movie. Even the music. You've got Girl, You'll Be a Woman Soon by Neil Diamond, Chuck Berry, You Can Never Tell, Dusty Springfield, Son of a Preacher Man, which is a great song, let's be honest. Jungle Boogie, of course.
Jungle Boogie,
Jungle Boogie is a great tune.
What a tune. Cool in the Gang.
Oh, aye. We got a soul for you.
Oh, aye. And even the scenes in it, like some of the most memorable scenes in film, you have the Royale with cheese scene, them with Vincent and Jules driving in the car.
It's all about
just such a character film. I love the dance scene with Mia and Vince.
I think
Jack
that's
Rabbit
literally
Slims.
your favorite movies. Like, it's not even obviously there's like war scenes and things with like Marvel and all that there, but you're weirdly obsessed with that with that like dance scene.
That dance scene is the one, guys. That dance scene.
Just out of interest, have you ever attempted it?
I'm not gonna accept or deny that. But yes,
I'll confirm he definitely has. Like
Popcorn, Liverpool.
And another one of my favorite scenes is the Get Medieval scene with Butch and Marcellus.
That's so decent.
Oh, when after he breaks up the like rape scene and things. Oh,
so good.
It's like, I'm gonna get medieval in this bitch.
Lads, we need to really cut back on these awful attempts at an accent, because that's 2 now.
Yeah,
twice.
Yeah. And then of course
I like it.
I love Winston Wolfe at Jimmy's house.
Yeah.
The body situation.
I think
is one of the
that
best.
is the highlight of the film.
Oh, aye.
That might be
the
my
body
favourite scene.
situation.
That
Like,
is the best scene.
It might be my
I've
favorite.
even got that down in my notes. I'm trying to argue. The one that Vince shoots Marvin in the head when they're driving along the car, turns around and says, "What do you think?" Blows his head off. And of course, one of the more memorable ones is the Mia OD scene.
Yeah. Oh, they're so that definitely is the thing with like all of his movies are so quotable and like so many. There's maybe 3. I think we're all gonna have them like 3-4 scenes.
Yeah.
In all the movies where they're some of the best scenes that you've ever
Oh,
watched.
they're so memorable. Like the scenes. Oh, it's just. You can just picture them. You hear a song and you just think, oh, that's
Pulp Fiction. The one. What's the he quotes the Psalm and all that there, and he threatens them and stuff too. Like
aye. I've read the quote down, but you've said no to accents, so I don't think I'm gonna read it out, because you can't read it out unless you go full Samuel. I'm terrible with accents, so don't let go full Samuel.
Don't let Dave hold you back, Dave.
But another cool thing about it, is. Because like all the big movies, like big franchises and things like Star Wars, there's a lot of lore and a lot of like fan theories in it, and Pulp Fiction's no different. Like there's so many fan theories.
There's a weird one about like there's the crossover between his movies, isn't there?
I've actually got
the Vega brothers.
He was actually going to do a movie, so he was Vic Vega and Vincent. He was trying to get a movie with them two in it, and that would have been real cool, but it ended up falling through.
There's actually just something way off topic, but it's like the Stephen King thing too. Apparently, all Stephen King's, all his works, every book, like even sort of ones that are more historical and stuff, are all within the same universe and stuff too. Apparently, in one of his more recent books, apparently Stephen King's actually like in the book, writing the book.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Mental. But
there's a couple of fan theories that I wouldn't mind getting into, because they're quite cool. Like
you wouldn't like a conspiracy theory, Dave, would you?
Well, a wee bit. But like one of them is the what's in the briefcase, because for anyone who hasn't watched the movie, it centralizes around this briefcase. But like some say, what's in the briefcase is the diamonds from Tarantino's first film, Reservoir Dogs. Although that wouldn't be my favorite. My favorite one is that it is actually the head gangster Marcellus Wallace's soul. Because the first time you're introduced to Marcellus Wallace, the first shot of him was at the back of his head, and he had like a band-aid, like plaster on the back of his head.
He did,
And anyone with a bit of Bible knowledge knows that the devil takes your soul from the back of your head. And the combination to the briefcase.
Biblical in here,
no, but it's
go ahead.
The combination you see whenever they're opening the briefcase, it's 666 is the combination, which adds to the theory. And whenever the briefcase is opened, you don't see what's in it. All you ever see is a glow, and whoever looks at it's like, left in amazement and speechless, and they're like, oh, it's the most beautiful thing, But basically the theory is that Marcellus Wallace has sold his soul to the devil, and he was trying to buy it back. And the 3 kids from the beginning of the movie is actually the devil's helpers. And when the kid came out of the bathroom at the end with a hand cannon, and Jules and Vincent weren't harmed, it's supposedly because God came down and stopped the bullets because they were saving a soul. So it was divine intervention because they were doing the Lord's work and saving a soul.
So many Easter eggs,
which is real like trippy, like it's real cool, like. And another one of the fan theories is pretty cool because he basically confirmed this, well, without actually confirming it, but whenever Kill Bill came out, he had said that it was a movie within a movie, and basically Kill Bill is a movie in Pulp Fiction, because whenever the scene Mia Wallace tells Vincent Vega about Fox Force 5 in Pulp Fiction, that it never got picked up. It was the pilot show she done, but supposedly it ended up getting revived into a movie starring Wallace a few years later, and it makes sense because when you watch, you can see, because she says to him, there was the blonde one, she was the leader, the Japanese, she was a kung fu master, the black girl was a demolitions expert, the French girl speciality was sex, and then Mia herself
heard that way. That is badass.
But Mia herself was knives, and of course anyone who's watched Kill Bill knows she's badass with a sword, and all the characters in Kill Bill fit exactly as she describes it for that plot. Cool, and Tarantino did come out and say that Kill Bill was a movie within a movie, and all of a sudden all the fans sort of were like, well, it's definitely Pulp Fiction then. Fox Force 5 turned into a movie. Yeah. But it's pretty random to think within the universe of Pulp Fiction, you'd see Jules going to the cinema and watching Mia up on the big screen playing Kill Bill,
that's
which
cool,
is but I thought that's pretty cool. But it just shows that like Star Wars and all them other big movie franchises, it's got all that lore and all that, the fans really get into it and really
you wouldn't put
there's a load of other theories, but they're just my sort of 2 favorite theories, so I wrote them down.
That's real cool.
But that's
that you wouldn't put anything like that past Tarantino. He's that good a director.
He likes all them sort of connective threads.
He wants all his movies, to be connected. Of course, the Vega brothers being, connected, and obviously their Kill Bill is a movie within Pulp Fiction, which is crazy. But I love that theory. What do you think of it? About it's Marcellus Wallace's soul, because it all makes sense when you actually read into the theory. Like,
I'm the Reservoir Dogs.
Of course,
so I'm okay with it being the diamonds.
Of course, that's another one of the theories, is that it was the diamonds. Like Vincent was retrieving the diamonds that his brother had stolen, or that was taken in Reservoir Dogs, which is another pretty cool theory. But
I think you said this to me one time before, that there was a whole conspiracy theory about that movie being within a movie for Kill Bill. But obviously you've broken.
Because before I'd actually wrote it all down. I've looked them up before because I thought they were cool. There's a lot of other ones that are like a bit weird. Like supposedly one of them is that that Pulp Fiction, the actual pulp in it, is to do with going to the bathroom basically, which is a weird one. Because pulp can mean like toilet paper, but like every character, if every character took less time in the bathroom, it would be a whole different movie, which is a weird one.
Oh, I right.
Every time Vincent goes to the bathroom, something terrible happens. He goes to the bathroom, Mia overdoses and the heroin, then you have
he gets shot.
In the bathroom. At the diner, he was reading in the bathroom, but if he wasn't reading in the bathroom and he took his time, then Jules wouldn't have talked calmly with the Roberts and all. They'd have probably ended up shot. And then obviously in Butch's house, he would if he wasn't sitting reading in the bathroom, if he actually left the bathroom earlier, then he wouldn't have been killed. He'd have had the gun and he'd have killed Butch, who they were on the hunt for.
Vegas a bit like you, and we used to work together, Dev. You used to take an awful amount of time in the bathroom just to kill a few minutes of your shift.
Don't we all. Any of our listeners out there, don't do the same. You're doing work wrong.
You can tell we're trying to set up a podcast so we don't have to do this anymore.
But even the guy in the apartment at the start, if he hadn't taken so long in the bathroom, he'd have been there, and maybe him and Marvin would have survived. But of course, he took so long in the bathroom and came out with the so-called hand cannon. But it's another weird fact that is pretty cool. And something you were saying earlier about all the universes combined. Here's a weird one for you. in every single Tarantino movie they use a fictional brand of cigarettes called Red Apple cigarettes. Like they're not non-existent, but in like every Tarantino movie when you see them smoking cigarettes, they're Red Apple cigarettes. So he's literally got his own cigarette brand that he like has in all the movies. Just
that's crazy.
Just another thing to link them all up. But
I didn't even notice that.
But them, some of the fan theories, there's a lot more fan theories. There were just a few of the ones that sort of plucked out when I was looking through them. But anyone who's interested in Pulp Fiction, give them a read because it'll blow your mind. Like
I really want to go watch Pulp Fiction now.
Oh, Pulp Fiction is fantastic.
I think Dev might have won this straight off the bat here. But,
no lie, like Pulp Fiction is the best. It's my favorite movie of all time, and But I'll let you move on. Thomas, would you like to get into a wee bit of Django, which is another one of my favorite movies, admittedly?
I'll get stuck in.
Brilliant. They're all just brilliant, like, aren't they?
Trying to avoid the racism in this one, Tom.
Oh no.
Keep us down to 3 N-words, please.
First of all, spoiler alert, just in case anybody hasn't watched this film. I'll stay away from all the racism. Django was actually like the second ever Tarantino film I watched. I watched Reservoir first, and then Django was the next. So I made like a huge jump between his work, but like it just immediately like struck me because like I am a massive fan of like westerns, like spaghetti westerns, all that sort of stuff. So it naturally enough appealed to me. It's an amazing film, like from start to finish.
It absolutely is.
It is one of them like real rare films where there's generally no slow parts, and even what you would consider like a slow part, there's plenty of like interesting dialogue and conversations and stuff being had, like so.
I think he could literally do an entire movie of two people having a conversation for an hour and a half, and I would watch it.
It's
and
actually
give him my hard-earned money.
It's actually true, like he could.
Oh, definitely.
He really could, like.
But as I say, like it ticks along perfectly. You don't get like distracted or you don't like lose interest or anything like that. Jamie Foxx, I had never seen him in a movie before this. And I couldn't believe just how good he was. Like I think that was like his first lead role in any film.
He's very good.
It was an unbelievable performance.
He is incredible.
His story's crazy too, like coming up and
music
producing and everything as well. He's an interesting character, Jamie Foxx.
He's a field comedian too, isn't he?
Maybe, lad. I think it was like he was like I was watching him on Rogan's podcast and he was talking about he was like hosting parties in LA for all the like rich and famous and stuff like that, and then that's how he kind of got his name out there as like a a sort of important. Everybody knew him. He was one of them sort of people, like. But then
he's dabbled in quite a lot of things.
Definitely.
But yeah, I was blown away with just how good he was, considered, because after I'd watched it, I went in to find out who the hell he was, and couldn't believe just how good he was in a role such as that. Because like I'd imagine working for Tarantino, you need to be the absolute best. Like you need to be at the top.
He's a perfectionist.
He could only demand.
There's no bad actors in Tarantino. Like,
no.
Like he almost makes everybody in his film stars. Like he just has that ability to just like, I'm sure the talent is all there, but he like literally unlocks it for them. But as good.
Uma Thurman his career, like her career. Sorry.
There's guys that like Kurt Russell and stuff that like haven't really had much of a career in a long many a day. That sort of had their peak and stuff, and then be revitalized by Tarantino when he gets him back for another role, that sort of carry on too.
Yeah,
Michael Madsen being one of them,
Yeah.
Kurt Russell does so many indie films like at the start of his career, like so.
Like that's a good thing. A lot of guys stick around with Tarantino, like Samuel.
He likes who he likes, like
Samuel Jackson and Bruce Dern, and
he's a bit like Tim Burton the way he operates. Like he near enough gets the same people involved.
Much better than Tim Burton. Well, early Tim Burton.
I'm not even suggesting that Tim Burton's better. I'm just it's a very similar pattern.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure you're all going to agree with my next point. The absolute standout in the film is Christoph Waltz.
Oh, yes.
His character as Dr. King Schultz, the bounty hunter.
Good. If I had to pick my favourite character, it would probably be Mr. Candy, Leonardo DiCaprio. I think it's just so different for Leo.
I just mean
Teenage heartthrob turns into, I don't know, that was my favourite performance in the whole film. Like.
Oh, they're both so good. Like
I just mean, like, personally for me, like, after my first viewing of it, because I had seen Leo in other things, but I had never seen this guy before, because this was before I obviously watched Inglourious. So, I had literally no exposure to this guy, so I was blown away.
Django was the first time I seen Christoph Waltz.
Yeah.
And just absorbs you, like.
Yeah,
Just
so good.
he commands every scene he's in. He literally takes the reins and just goes nuts.
Yeah.
But yeah, and Crippy's not gonna like this one bit.
Here we go.
I have it actually, as I've worded it, the pair of them as like a unit, a duo. I generally believe they're a better pair than Jules and Vincent from Pulp.
There's gonna be stabbings.
I definitely
look at that head.
There's an argument to be made
If
there.
we ever get to the point
by
where
just
there's
how
video,
good
If I'm
they
being
are.
honest, I think Pulp Fiction's a better movie, but I agree that they're a better pairing.
Yeah, I think the chemistry is
The chemistry's
just
great.
electric.
Like
They're
Jules and
so
Vincent's
good.
unbelievable too, but
Yeah,
I believe
yeah.
that them as a pairing is more entertaining.
Yeah.
However, I still believe Pulp Fiction's a better movie, but it's
Fair enough,
it's
fair
close. They're both up there with my favorite movies of all time.
Arguably so. I'm not gonna I'm just trying to give a good spin here for Django. But yeah, that is generally like my honest opinion when I seen them, and then obviously I seen Pulp after. Like for all the regard that Pulp is held in, like I generally believe they're a better pairing.
That's
How many times have you seen Pulp Fiction? Because it has to be at least 4 before
Oh
you
no,
really
I've
appreciate
definitely
it.
seen it like about 5 times. I
That's
actually
good.
watched it there just before the turn of the year.
That's good.
So I love it. I love Pulp. I'm really not trying to go too hard on it here.
we can't. There's no bad movies here.
None of us have pitched a bad movie.
No.
Although I'm upset that nobody pitched Inglorious, but that's
We'll
another-
talk a wee bit about Inglourious when we get there, because Aldo the Apache needs to talk a bit.
Aye.
Something I really liked about this film was he sort of broke the mold a wee bit. He went for a more linear story. It wasn't broke up into like little segments or chapters as such.
Just the wee
Kinda-
flashbacks.
Yeah,
about
like
it.
where he jumps forward and back in time.
Yeah.
This followed just like a continuous story from the start right through to the end. There was no sort of like there is a time jump at one point in the film.
Aye, when they're doing the bounty thing.
Yeah, but they address that and it's done in such quick fashion. Like you don't even.
It makes it easier to enjoy first viewing than
Yeah.
some of his other movies that
Aye,
took
fair
a
point,
few
fair point.
viewings to
One of my-
really appreciate. Like,
In
One
a
of
way,
my-
that's quite clever because it makes it so rewatchable. You have to go back to like get a better understanding of everything, and then you can piece it all together. But I did like that he sort of broke his tradition almost and did a more linear story path.
One thing I will say is that I just love that bar scene with the Gwen and he pours a couple of beers for them. Like
Oh, yeah.
like it's not even
If you
big
do another
action.
bad
Yeah.
accent, I'm gonna stab you.
I haven't said it yet. I'm waiting for the right
You were
moment.
thinking about it,
No,
I know
no.
by that look.
It's like a reward. See, I wasn't even going to do it, but then because you said it, I did it in madness. I just had to do it in madness. But that scene, like, it's not even a big scene in the movie.
That's
but
the
it's
one
just...
where he's just killed like the sheriff of the town and then asked for the marshal.
Yeah.
And he's in, and
Yeah,
he's just
yeah.
like he's just like
Scrape.
scraping off the top head of the beer. Oh, it's just class, like.
There's not much I need to say about the supporting cast. It speaks for itself.
Yeah.
They've got Samuel. They've got DiCaprio.
Samuel
You went
L's
on to
character.
say- I agree with you, man. Calvin Candy is probably one of the most sadistic but likable assholes that
aye.
you could ever come across in a
Yeah.
film.
and it's just so different for Leonardo DiCaprio. Like,
Oh,
it's
massively
a role
different.
that he's like, how often do you see him play the villain and an absolute hateful villain at that?
Oh, aye.
Like,
Yeah.
But even on the Samuel L. character, whenever I was watching it, even though like Leonardo's character was very shady and he's very corrupt, Samuel's character made me feel very uneasy.
Oh, aye, he's
Like, he's-
the...
Okay,
The old,
suspicious he is.
Aye. He's
There's a phrase for that.
He's like the master slave.
like the house N-word.
I know,
Aye.
but there's like a... I can't remember the name of it. There's a specific word for what
He's basically like
people
his
call him
first.
or whatever.
He's basically like he's his
Was
first.
it Uncle Tom? No.
I don't know.
No, I might be wrong.
He's
Anyway, go on
basically allowed. He's allowed in the big house as such, whereas the other.
Yeah, he has like a
African
certain
Amer-
level of command. Like
Yeah.
he commands like the other slaves.
Yeah.
the other African Americans there are not allowed into the big house as such where Candy lives, but obviously Samuel's character is because he's quite high up and he can actually sit and have a drink with Candy.
Yeah.
But sorry, go ahead.
But he's just, I was just gonna say, he made me feel so uneasy because like he's very shady and he's like very
Racist.
Yeah, they put that across, like that's what I was going to say, they put that across that the only thing worse than what Samuel L's character is a black slaver, which is what Django portrays in the movie,
Yeah, under the gaze of.
Yeah, under the guise of a black slaver.
I mean, also I gotta give a shout out to Walton Goggins because he's in this film as well. He actually showed up in this, and then obviously, showed up
bigger
again.
role.
And, yeah, but I thought he stood out in a way because, like, obviously as we've discussed, We've seen him in Sons. I really liked him in Sons, and I like him in this. I think he's really good. I'd actually
very
like to see him.
versatile bit of acting.
Yeah,
too, like.
he actually showed up in the Marvel universe there quite recently. He showed up in the second Ant-Man film. I enjoy seeing him like any time.
He's definitely like to play the range of characters that he's played is quite something. Like you know that they wouldn't be easy. We're no acting experts here, like, but you wouldn't say that they're easy roles to play, the ones that he's playing either. Like
No, not a chance.
You know,
He's very talented. Like
this is going to be a real hard portion of this argument because it's very hard to compete with Pulp's soundtrack. And it's going to be insanely hard to battle Reservoirs.
Yeah.
But what
I'd argue Pulps is as good as Reservoirs.
Don't you start.
But what my particular choice has got going, it's got the composer Ennio Morricone. I think that's how you pronounce it. He's like an Italian composer.
Apologies if it was butchered.
It probably was butchered,
Yeah.
but I don't claim to be good at pronouncing foreign names. But yeah, like he added his slight wee touch to this film. Not as much as for Hateful Eight, he did the entire score. But like for a Western fan, like you guys like Clint Eastwood, like he's done.
I like Westerns, yeah.
Like he's done all that work. He's done the good, the bad, the ugly, Fistful of Dollars, all that stuff. He even does the intro to Metallica's gigs.
Seriously?
Like, yeah, that's their intro. They play one of his songs.
Really? That's pretty cool, man.
Yeah.
He's got a hell of a resume then.
Yeah, he's recognized basically everywhere. So it's pretty cool to hear him in a film, like this, because it's almost like a satire of like westerns. So
it is. Yeah, it's kind of
He would probably take his work quite seriously. So it's just very cool to see that Tarantino was able to reel in this master of the genre.
That's a big one. Like he's like real old classic Western soundtracks. They're hard to beat. Like
especially everyone knows once the soundtrack hits the good, bad, and ugly. What it is.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Sort of to round it off, like for this film, I like the simplicity of the plot. It's basically just about a dude trying to find his wife, trying to break her out of slavery, break out of slavery himself.
Slight revenge story
on obviously the masters.
One of the things I like is the unbelievably over the top shootout at the end. Like,
it's incredible.
It's so over the top, but it's supposed to be so over the top. It's
we're sort of trying to skirt around the whole racism thing here too, but even to like Tarantino's got balls too, like that he puts. Like he doesn't pull no punches.
He doesn't shy away.
He doesn't pull any punches.
But that's what like you can do when you're an independent filmmaker like Tarantino, when you have the fan base already there. Whereas some people like studios would never let that go by. But he doesn't have to answer to big studio heads and stuff. He does what he wants, puts it out what he wants. It's his art. That's the way he wants it.
It's his way.
It's cool.
Yeah, he doesn't shy away from any particular topics. He's
not
afraid to tackle it.
That's
even in like Pulp Fiction with the overdosing scene and like all the open drug taking and stuff. Like how many other movies have it portrayed that much?
It's set
in
the time.
Like shooting heroin and things like that. It's
set in the time like with Pulp and with like Django and that. It's set in the time where these things were happening, but some other films would try to skirt around it and not address it. But then it's authentic. It's the way it's meant to be.
Yeah. But as I say, I like the simplicity of the plot. It's just one man trying to find his wife, escape captivity from basically white slavers.
Yeah.
I will say this: it probably does lack certain energies given off by films like Pulp, Reservoir. It's not as punchy as such. It's kind of more of a slow burn, but not in a bad way as such. Just it just operates differently as to like the sort of flashier films in his filmography, but like he addresses like a lot of genuine points that need to be, like as you just said, like he gets across things that were happening, and as you said, like other films will shy away from that, whereas he just puts it front and center. He's not afraid to.
It's like he even gets they do use the N-word on a seeding them out in that film, but he's getting a major actor to use that.
Yeah.
Leonardo DiCaprio's character uses it quite heavily throughout the movie, and it's like
Samuel's character as well.
Wee bit more different for Samuel because he is black, but I mean, he's getting a massive Hollywood star in Leonardo DiCaprio to use that, like. You know,
and
that's,
not even
that's
as
the
a
pull
you
of
know
the director.
not even in like a gangster or rapping way, more in a derogatory
the
in
way
your face way, like
he owns slaves.
and the most offensive way it can be.
Yeah.
But yeah, like everything about it's just wildly entertaining. The bad guys, you even enjoyed the bad guys like Candy and.
As I said, like I think Candy's performance or Leonardo DiCaprio's performance as Candy is my favorite performance in it. Like
there's meant to be the scene. It's when they're at dinner and he cuts himself accidentally with the hand, and they kept filming. Like they were having that scene, I remember his hand was bleeding and he like wiped it on the girl's face. That wasn't meant to be in the scene.
Oh, that was improv.
He actually cut himself, and they were ready to like stop filming, and Leonardo just kept rolling, so they all kept rolling. That like the sort of like shock horror on the girl's face when she gets like blood wiped in her face. That's a natural reaction. Why are you wiping your blood on me?
What's going on here?
Yeah. But that was all improv. Like they just kept going. And like Tarantino left it in.
It's things like that that just really make this film stand out for me. It's just so amazing.
I love Django. Like it is a great film. Like.
So leave the best to last then, is it?
So we'll going for the first movie, which his first gangster movie, which he perfected a second time round, I'd argue. But carry on, Dave.
You saving the best to last here, big man.
I'm kind of like not I wouldn't even say closet. I'd almost teeter towards more Reservoir than Pulp.
Reservoir's the one, Reservoir.
I love Reservoir Dogs also. I love all these movies, and Inglourious as well, and just as enjoy his whole filmography. But Pulp Fiction is my favorite movie. Out of every movie I've ever seen.
We can confirm that it is your favorite movie.
Strange obsession with it. Do you know when like Dave gets slightly drunk? It's nearly like is like when if we've got like a suit thing, it nearly goes a little bit Vic Vega. The tie gets a bit loose, the shirt gets a bit untucked.
He gets into character.
Like I need to get a ponytail out there, big man. So Reservoir Dogs is saving the best to last. I think definitely my favorite Tarantino film. I like them all too. They're all, I think there's some of them, like even like Inglourious earlier, is really, really quotable. They're all so good, but for me, Reservoir Dogs is the best. So this was Quentin's first feature-length film in 1982. He actually planned to make the film on a budget of $30,000, so that was initially planned. But it ended up. The script ended up, I think it was like through a mutual friend. The friend actually ended up helped like a co-producer or whatever way the movie thing works. But he gave the script to Harvey Keitel, and then Harvey Keitel really, really liked it, and then sort of circulated enough, and it was Harvey Keitel that then got them a bigger budget, and they got a budget of $1.5 million to do it. But it was basically all, so clearly that's why Harvey Keitel's in many Tarantino movies, that sort of. He owes him one.
It's like a thank you.
Yeah. So I was gonna talk a wee bit about the cast, like the big names and big hitters and all, but they're all in the same. They're recurring characters, like they're recurring actors and everything. We've got Harvey Keitel as Mr. White. We have Tim Roth as Mr. Orange. Michael Madsen as Mr. Blonde. Vic Vega. Steve Buscemi, who I think might be my favorite character in Reservoir Dogs, Mr. Pink, and then Quentin just as an off was Mr. Brown. But we all know the plot anyway. It's a bank robbery going very wrong, and we just spend the majority of the movie working out what the hell happened. You can go along with the main characters working out what happened and all that there. So I think the brilliance of this movie is its simplicity. It was his first one, and I think.
And it's such a small budget too. Yeah. It doesn't look like a small budget movie in the slightest. Like,
I think also as well, like a made of mind.
Like to think with Pulp Fiction having 8.5 million, which is a tiny budget, but that movie was made in 1.5 million.
Well, like he had planned to make this in $30,000, so that tells you like. Yeah. He had it planned out anyway. Yeah. He had originally planned it being like the first scene was going to be Mr. Pink running down the street. You remember him getting chased in the actual film, but he was going to be able to do it for $30,000, or well, he was going to try and do it for $30,000. But he got the 1.5 million.
I made a mind. We were chatting about it one day, and it sort of hit home with me whenever he said it, because like obviously, like it's such a great film. It's about, obviously, as you say, a bank robbery gone wrong. It's so good.
Well, I think it's a jewelry. I don't even know what.
Jewelry heist.
A jewelry heist gone wrong, but the best thing is you don't even see it.
No.
You don't see it. Like, how does that movie be so good and you don't actually see the actual heist?
Yeah.
You know,
it's got all the Tarantinoisms, all that sort of. This happens, but it's happened before, and then all it's got the non-lineal storytelling.
It's like same as Pulp Fiction in a way, where it's like you're going back, but you're seeing different events that have happened through different characters' viewpoints during that time, rather than.
I was doing a wee bit. We've all done. We're trying to do for these podcasts a bit of research anyway, but I was doing that, and I think that don't know. It kind of happens with a few things anyway, but. When this was released, and it was an independent film again, but it was I think it appeared at the the Cannes Film Festival, that quite big one and all, and it got rave reviews from critics and things of that nature.
Pulp Fiction won the top prize at the Cannes Film Festival.
I can't remember now if this did. I'm not entirely sure, but it's one of them ones apparently obviously Pulp Fiction came along and then it was like, oh my god, that was unbelievable, and then there were like I would imagine in the 90s then a lot of people were like, oh he had one prior. And then they went back and watched
because I don't think it grossed
Dogs.
a lot at the actual box office.
No, I think it was a lot smaller, but it was probably one of them.
The cult following, the amount of people who've been back and watched it since, it's obviously made millions and millions.
For me, even that Reservoir Dogs was the first one that I watched.
Yeah.
My dad had watched it, so I initially watched it before I ever seen Pulp Fiction or anything. So I watched it I came up probably the way you've more so, Tom, like you'd sort of dived in late and then watched sort of out of order, not out of order, but out of. And then
I went early to more later work. Yeah.
But then I've sort of been more sort of in line because I did see the Reservoir Dogs one first. So it is the one that blazed the way for all these films, all the non-lineal storytelling, all the classic Tarantino scenes and things of that nature. And this is the one that set the standard. And this was the one where it was all these good films have been birthed from. It all started with Reservoir. So I'm trying to sell it here pretty well. But the beauty of it is its simplicity. It's a very basic movie. It's so simple.
Yeah.
And I think I don't know if this is an actual fact, but it's only an hour and 40 long, and a lot of the other films are
they're over 2 hours. Most of them.
A lot of them are 2 hours long. This
This
one's short, concise. There's no dead air. It's all because it's all just sort of filmed in one. There's key scenes taken out, like wee flashbacks and things. But it's all just one continuous. There's no sort of.
But it is because of the mystery behind it. It is a real edge of your seat. You're thrilled the whole way through. You're interested to see where it goes and what's happening.
It was actually filmed in a morgue, so the whole thing is filmed in a morgue.
Oh really?
Yeah, the sort of warehouse bit.
Where he's lying.
It was an actual morgue. Even there's a scene when Mr. Orange. The one that turned out to be the cop.
Yeah.
It's like one of the flashbacks, and he's getting ready in an apartment. They're waiting outside.
They're downstairs.
And he's waiting on. They're outside in the car waiting on him, and he's talking himself up oh you've sold yourself. You're gonna be fine. You're the man and all that. That's actually filmed upstairs in the morgue.
Oh, really?
So the whole thing's literally pretty much filmed in the one building. So the budget was tiny. He didn't spend a big pile of money, but he did plan to do this for 30 grand. Another thing I absolutely love about this film is the way it's filmed. It's it was filmed in 1982, obviously, or whatever, maybe 91, say. But it looks so much older. It's got that real.
A real grain to it.
It's real grainy, really bad film. Even when they're running, there's the scene with Mr. Pink running down the street. It's that old they're running along with him, the cameraman sort of thing, and you can see it bouncing and all. I think that's so cool. It's the early seasons of It's Always Sunny, where it's filming them really bad cameras and stuff, and I think that gives a real
again,
a real cool
gritty feel to it.
Again, it's
especially for a movie like that.
Again, it's kind of like Guy Ritchie's first one, Lock Stock. It's so nitty gritty, so cheap but so brilliant.
I love that.
You know what? There's directors nowadays that have millions and millions, hundreds of millions of budgets that are trying to get their films to look that old and gritty, and because it's a stylistic choice. It's a popular stylistic choice.
Actually, there's a lot of people are liking to go back to actually doing that thing.
Even the earlier Bourne films is all a lot of
bad
camera work and stuff. It adds to it. But
so good.
Obviously taking a lot of inspiration from the likes of Reservoir Dogs.
And it's obviously probably because it was more of a budgetary thing. Now he's got the money to do the better films that are better shot, but it's just something that. With that I think is class. Like I said, I'm a big fan of It's Always Sunny too, and then first few seasons of it are filmed on it's nearly like a bad camcorder.
Oh, wow.
And it's so good, like. But again, with most Tarantino films, it's the iconic scenes that like make the movie. So I've written down a few here that we can cover. The very opening scene. So the first time you meet anybody is they're in a cafe and they're talking, and
I love that. But
there's so many good scenes, like, and it's that opening scene, and Tarantino's character, Mr. Brown, I think it is, he's talking about the Like a Virgin thing, the Madonna song, and they're explaining what the whole Like a Virgin thing is and all that carry on, and all that.
Yeah.
And then it flows into the next bit where it's they talk about the tipping. Do you remember? Mr. Pink doesn't tip, and it's like, what do you mean you don't tip, and all that sort of crap. So it's really good too.
And he makes a valid point, because like he says, like, you know, people work at McDonald's but you don't tip them, but you would tip someone in a cafe.
They go off on it. And then Joe, the head guy over the whole thing, just basically like, put it in, I bought the damn food, you know, sort of, you know, put it in, it's only $1 or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's all good. It's a great way to open the film, and then I'm gonna get on to the soundtrack.
That's a great way to introduce you to the characters. Like.
They then leave, and it's that scene where
they're
they're
walking down the
the
street.
thing.
Yeah, and
I'm closing out with the soundtrack, but it's Little Green Bag.
Little Green Bag is quite possibly one of my favourite songs, you know, outside of film and all. I just listen to it getting ready for nights out and things. I love it.
It's class, like, it's absolutely deadly. But the plot then moves along. There's the Mr. White and Mr. Pink recapping what happened, and that sort of breakdown you're finding out along with the characters, trying to piece together what the hell's going on. You know, Orange has been shot, Mr. White, Mr. Pink shows up there, they're arguing, they pull guns on each other, and then I really like Mr. Pink. He is a brilliant. I think Steve Buscemi in it is absolutely class.
I love Steve Buscemi anyway. Like, you know,
Steve Buscemi.
He's a good actor. Like,
but maybe a lot of people's favorite then shows up and it's Mr. Blonde.
He was the standout for me.
Mr. Blonde.
The first time I watched it, I was like, I love this guy.
And the class bit about, like, again, you don't see the robbery going wrong, and all they talk about is this guy, Mr. Blonde, who's shot the place up, went completely crazy and off the hook, completely off.
He's unhinged, like
completely unhinged. And he shows up looking like the coolest human being I have ever seen. He comes in like that, just plain black and white suit with sunglasses on, and he's drinking like a shake or something.
Because like
that brings you back to that other point, like, you know, in every one of Tarantino's films, you end up loving the characters and, like, you know, really getting invested in their journey, but they're all dicks.
Like, he turns up, him and White argue, and there's that whole like, do you needed fries to go with your shake or something?
Yeah.
They pull guns on each other, and he's got like cowboy boots on with the black suit. He's got the classic like Ray-Ban black sunglasses, just looking like the coolest person in the world. But so he sort of takes over the film for a good bit, and then there's the sort of like maybe the most iconic scene in any of Tarantino's films, and it's the ear cutting, and
it's gruesome,
stuck in the middle of the food, and the cop and him being in the boot to bring him in to torture him.
Stuck in the Middle of Use, another great song.
Yeah.
Him dancing around.
It's so psychotic. It's one of them scenes that anytime someone says Reservoir Dogs, the first thing that I picture is just that gruesome scene. Like, you know, it's
Something I like about that scene is, like, really maybe just a small wee thing, but, like, do you know when he actually leaves the building to go get the cop out of the boot? Like, when he walks out of the building and closes the door, the song gets muffled. You can't hear it.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, in a normal film, they would continuously play that song no matter where he went, probably.
And then when they go back in and open the door again, it comes back in louder.
It's still playing. I love that. I love that little touch.
That's such
it's
a
just
good
the
point.
little nuances that he has. Like, he's
like, if you
Tarantino
I'm sure you get what I mean.
What
like, if that were any other film, that as soon as the
I
song
know
played,
exactly what you mean.
wouldn't have even mattered. It would have carried on wherever.
Something we throw away thing.
Little touch like that. I
you
love
kind of
that.
see that sometimes, and I know it's very off topic, but in Guardians of the Galaxy, like, you know, he takes like the headphones out, you don't hear it.
Yeah.
And then,
that's something cool, like.
It's just something. It's something cool to add to the movie. Like.
Then again, that's another great director, James Gunn. He is brilliant. I love him.
But you go on from that and you figure out that, like, Orange is the at that point is when you figure out, like, Orange is the cop and all that sort of carry on.
Tim Roth is a really shady guy.
Yeah, no, definitely.
In all of his roles.
But
I love Tim Roth.
Oh, he's great.
He's so good.
He's great.
And then it goes into, like, the car ride where it's that scene. Remember I was saying about, like, they go and pick him up and all, and they're talking about, like, Elois and this old black actress or whatever. But that all leads into the scene where they're getting their names. So it's another iconic scene, or not another iconic scene.
Yeah.
And it leads them to that one where they're getting their names and they argue about, like, you know, you're Mr. Pink, you're Mr. Brown, but that's too close to Mr. Shit. You've got a cool name, you're Mr. White. Well, it doesn't matter, just be Mr. Pink. No, well then we'll swap. There's got to be no swapping because everybody wants to be Mr. Black. Carry on. So it's another one of the iconic scenes in the film. But then it flicks back to the end of it goes to the end of the robbery and the start of the story, and then it all starts to come together. That's when you have the big ending. Joe, the main mob boss or whatever, with the guy that's running this, he works out that Orange is the main guy, you know, and they end up having like a standoff right at the end of the film. They all, like the three, it's so good. It's between Mr. White, his son, nice guy, what's his name? Nice guy Eddie, isn't it? Nice guy Eddie. Nice guy Eddie. They have the three standoff, like he's gonna shoot my dad and all this, so there's just a three-way standoff and they all plug each other.
Yeah.
Whilst Mr. Orange is bleeding out, Mr. Blonde's dead, the cop's dead, and Mr. Pink's like hiding under a ramp, yeah, and all this sort of carry on. So it's just it's a great scene that finishes it off, and then he finishes it off as Tarantino finishes it off with, like, just the dead end, and it just stops.
Oh, it leaves everything for you to fill in, like, you
Orange tells White that he's a cop, and you hear cops coming in and there's gunshots and everything. But I'll round out my argument with the best bit of the whole film. It's the soundtrack.
Almost as good as Pulp Fiction
it's better
soundtrack.
Than Pulp Fiction. The whole entire movie, from the start to the middle to the end, they referenced K-Billy's Super Sounds of the 70s, which is a it's a show on the radio that is recapping great sounds of the 70s the whole way through the movie. And there's Little Green Bag, Hooked on the Feelings in it, Steelers Wheel, all great songs, and that just to have a wee like thing of that nature, just to be a key part, and like when Mr. Blonde's cutting off the cop's ear, he's like, or prior to it, he's just, have you been listening to K-Billy's Super Sounds of the 70s? Like, you know, he's about to torture this fella and kill him, but he brings up, have you been listening to K-Billy's? The soundtrack's unbelievable.
Well, I agree the soundtrack's class, but I'd still argue Pulp's is better. You know, Son of a Preacher Man, Jungle Boogie, great song. A bit of Chuck Berry, who doesn't like a bit of Chuck Berry? And, you know, Neil Diamond, You'll Be a Woman Soon during the OD scene is, you know, perfect /
yeah.
Great.
I think more so, well, definitely the Hateful Eight, and even more so Django as well. Soundtrack's not so much of a standout.
If you're into classical sort of orchestrated stuff, like, you're gonna enjoy.
There's an interesting fact on one of the scenes in the Hateful Eight actually is, do you know, whenever Daisy Domergue is playing the guitar and she's sort of singing, John Ruth lets her play the guitar.
That was a great scene too.
Turns out that guitar is an antique 1870s Martin guitar that was donated by the Martin Guitar Museum to Tarantino's guys so they could use in the movie. But obviously, Kurt Russell, his character, smashes up the guitar whenever, like, she finishes playing it. Like, she sort of slags him and he takes it off her and smashes it to pieces. Apparently, there was word on set that keep the main antique guitar in, but before Ruth gets the guitar and smashes it, put in the prop, like a cheap one. Apparently, the information wasn't divulged to Kurt Russell.
Oh God.
And he took the guitar and smashed the antique one to pieces, whilst, I can't remember her name, the girl who plays Daisy Domergue was sitting, and her reaction is genuine. She's genuinely horrified because she realised that he's smashing the real guitar. And she's sitting there horrified, and then apparently on set, whenever they're looking around, Tarantino was sitting in the corner with a smirk on his face, and he knew that the information wasn't divulged.
He was the one that was meant to tell him.
He would love that, just the actions to be real. And
so since that they didn't get their guitar back, the museum no longer rents out guitars to any movie set.
That's definitely. Another random one, because I'm just going to bring it up because it is my favourite set, or one of my favourite scenes of like any movie, is the most expensive scene in the entire Pulp Fiction movie to make. Obviously it had such a small budget, was them paying $150,000 to build that Jack Rabbit Slims where, you know, the dance scene took place with Mia and Vincent, right? Yeah, the biggest budgetary thing in the entire movie was them building that. They just built it in an old warehouse, like 150 grand. But it's crazy to think for that one scene with them two going out, like, you know, was the most expensive. But you look at that, you know, it's just that, you know, just like, it would be so cool if that place existed. I'd be there all the time.
You would. We're over an hour, boys, but we're, what do you call it? A wee quick word on maybe Inglorious. Like, I really like the Inglorious film, but the two storylines are like chalk and cheese for me. The storyline with Aldo the Apache and everything, I think, is absolutely unbelievable. And I know it all does this classic Tarantino thing where it all comes to the one point.
Yeah.
I wasn't a massive fan of the story with the girl.
You know,
it was quite slow.
I actually didn't mind it, just simply down to, you know, the German soldier that like falls in love with her. I really like that guy. He's a good actor.
I thoroughly enjoyed every aspect of that movie, and I love that it's, you know, Tarantino just deciding, right, I'm going to just do a random alternative take on history, you know, how Hitler died.
But I absolutely loved
like that scene in
the
but like, you know, if you didn't have all the with the, like, you know, scenes previous with the, you know, the girl and you know everything that she went through, then you know the final scene with the in the cinema when, you know, they burn the whole place to the ground wouldn't have anywhere near the impact. You know, it may be a slow burn to get there, but the payoff is, you know, like that scene in the cinemas, you know, arguably one of my favorite Tarantino scenes. It could be up, you know, really my favorite. Like,
really enjoyed Inglorious, but I think I haven't seen it as many times as the rest of them. I think maybe twice, 3 times I've only seen Inglorious.
The Nazi Hunters, it's maybe the most quotable one.
Stieglitz, the bear Jew.
Stieglitz, the bear Jew, you know, unbelievable.
So I need to watch it a few more times, but definitely brilliant.
I'd definitely give a wee honourable mention to Inglorious, and one of us shuttered on the script on it because, you know.
And even
I don't think any of us are massive Kill Bill guys, and I know Kill Bill has definitely got like a lot of big
Kill
likes.
Bill, like, I like Kill Bill, but I don't love Kill Bill. Like a lot of, like, you know, the likes of Inglorious, the likes of, you know, Django, Reservoir, Pulp Fiction, you know, even Hateful Eight, like, you know, but like, you know, them four, the first 4 anyway, they would be in my top 20 movies of all time. Like, I could sit down on a rainy day and just stick them on and watch them for the 15th, 20th time and enjoy them like it was, you know, they're just movies that I love. Like,
couldn't tell you how much I watched. Like, even researching for this, I put Reservoir on as I was researching.
I think I've seen Pulp Fiction. It must be about 20 times. Reservoir Dogs is in double figures. Django maybe not as much because it's newer, but, you know, I've definitely seen Django 5 or 6 times. Inglorious I've seen 5 or 6 times. These are movies that I could just sit down and watch, and they're so rewatchable because, like all Tarantino films, you know, you get, like, you know, you get things that you didn't pick up on the first time and things, you know, like I could stick Pulp Fiction on tomorrow for the 21st time and see things that I didn't, you know, pick up on.
He's got one more, doesn't he?
Jackie Brown. It hasn't got no mentions at all so far, and Jackie Brown is a damn good film.
It's a real dark horse for me. I've never seen it or even had any sort of indication to like watch it.
It's really
it's
good.
Not bad. I don't mind it.
Like, it's, when I say really good, I mean it's very good.
It's not as good as a lot of the other films that we've been discussing here,
but it's definitely a movie.
It is very good. Like,
I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed watching it, and like, it's a good cast. Samuel L's in it again.
Yeah.
Bridget Fonda, Michael Keaton, Robert De Niro's in it. It's basically.
It's just not the biggest hitter, like, is it?
It's just not the biggest hitter, but it's a sleeper. Like, it definitely could be watched by.
There's no bad Tarantino films.
No, there's no bad films at all.
I'd say my least favorite would either be Kill Bill Volume 2 or Death Proof. But even then, Death Proof was very foot fetish heavy. Like when they're riding along, and have you all seen Death Proof?
Death Proof.
When they're riding along in the car, and the girls
weird,
have the feet hanging out and all. Like, you know, it's entertaining because Kurt Russell's character is entertaining, and he's like, you know, he's just a pure psychopath. Like, but, you know, it wouldn't be. It and Kill Bill Volume 2 would be my least favorite Tarantino films, but even then, I like them. You know, there's no Tarantino film that he's actually directed that I don't enjoy. Like, of course, there's films that he's been in that aren't that great, and there's films that he's maybe helped produce that aren't that great, but films that he was actually behind the camera and had a hand in the script writing.
You talking bad about Dust Till Dawn there, please?
Dust Till Dawn's good. I wasn't talking about Dust Till Dawn. There's other films that he's produced that are not great films, but, you know, whenever he's been behind the camera, whenever he's had a hand in the script writing, the casting, and everything to do with the movie, it's a home run most of the time.
So he's got one more to do after he's done Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
I think the next one he's doing is actually, he says it'll be his last one, which will be sad. I think, what'll that be? It'll be 11th or 12th maybe?
It'll be 10th, I think.
10th maybe, is it? But so I, like, you know, but it's good. But the good thing about him too is, you know, he takes so long
to do them.
To do the movies. Like when he was doing Pulp Fiction, like he lived 6 months in Amsterdam, and but he takes, the reason that there's such gaps between them is because he doesn't rush them. He takes so long to get the cast right, the scripts right, and everything right. And of course, there's no studio pushing him. We need, it out for this date, and
he does it when he wants.
The man's a genius.
It really shows. Like his body of work is probably unrivaled to most directors. Mm-hmm. Like how many directors?
Like it's up there with Scorsese, like of just directors like that. Like
he's got all the awards under the sun. Oh, that's the what was the one I had? Reservoir Dogs was named by Empire as the greatest independent movie of all time. There you go. But
Roger Ebert said Pulp Fiction was the most important independent movie of all time.
Important
because what it made in the box office. Plus, its scores are the highest on Rotten Tomatoes. Out of the way, even though we've said it's a pile of horse manure. But
we're not going to get, if this ever takes off, we're not going to get too much work with Rotten Tomatoes, are we?
No.
But screw Rotten Tomatoes.
Rotten Tomatoes, I love you. Give me a job.
I think from wrapping this up, it's like we've all pitched our own movies, and there's probably it's going to be Reservoir and Pulp that's probably going to stand out between any Tarantino film because they're all the classics. But it's not even this debate's not even about slagging every other person's movie pitch.
It's about almost appreciating the genius that is.
Because
of course we all want our movies to be considered the best.
Mm-hmm.
I know mine is. But,
when I was searching the Hateful Eight, just on a lot of lists, it was down at the bottom of movies like by Tarantino. But like if you know what you're in for with Tarantino, it's like
it's classic.
A lot of it's dialogue based, and yes, you get your action at the end. It's kind of like your reward for sitting it out. But like I think I was watching Once Upon a Time in Hollywood there a few months ago in the cinema, and like people were walking out an hour and a half, 2 hours through it. Now I know it is quite a slow burner, like all his films are.
I haven't seen it, which is weird for me being such a Tarantino fan, but I have yet to watch it.
Like it goes crazy at the end, like.
Yeah, it's like the last. I haven't even watched the last half hour of the film. That's just, I think that's pretty telling. Like I just couldn't summon up the will to watch on.
It's a film that needs to be watched 2 or 3 times because it's a weird take. It's very Tarantino like because it's kind of the way how he does all his films. It's very slow and a lot of dialogue, but it's also a bit different at the same time. But
they're all character studies. Like a lot of my favorite scenes as I was discussing through the different movies, like in Reservoir Dogs, them just sitting in the cafe, Jules and Vincent just driving around in the car, discussing Amsterdam and the Royale with cheese.
Yeah.
Mia and Vincent just out on a date. Some of my favorite scenes even in like I love the scene where they're all in just discussing what is it? They're discussing the fighting in the.
Oh, the Mandingo fighting.
The Mandingo fighting. The scenes when they're in just, for about 10 or 15 minutes when they're in Candy's house just discussing that is like, are among my favourite scenes in the movies because he's so good at just character building and just getting you really interested and really invested in his characters.
He just knows how to like construct a scene and then fill it with like an organic conversation. It doesn't seem scripted, like.
No.
At no point what's so good about it though. That's what's
you're totally like
sucked
into
it. Boys, I hope some of my fan theories of blowing your minds a bit from Pulp Fiction because
as always, can we have like an honest opinion now of each man as to, without sticking by your movie choice that you've went for in this podcast, what is your true?
Well, taking Pulp Fiction out, I would say my next favourite would be Django Unchained.
Tom?
I
gotta go Inglorious.
For me, other than Reservoir, probably. I'd probably go Pulp Fiction as my second favourite.
I think I'd go Django followed by Pulp. Yeah, because I think Django was the one that got me into Tarantino. So I'll have to give that a bit of appreciation.
Well, we'll wrap it up there, boys. That was good tonight. I enjoyed that.
But if you enjoyed the podcast, make sure to like subscribe,
Dan's
comment.
Gonna be covering the liking and subscribing.
Of course.
Give her some love, guys. Like, subscribe, comment, and wherever you're seeing it, let us know how we get on.
And if you've any,
how we can get better, please be constructive because I don't think I could take abuse.
I think Dave would also appreciate it if you've got any other theories that you can add to his Tarantino Pulp Fiction.
Don't worry, I've seen most of the fan theories. They're just my favourites. There's a lot of absolutely ridiculous ones.
Maybe we'll in the future we'll do a podcast where we just get Crippy to name off random facts about different films.
Conspiracy Thursdays with Dave.
Yeah. That went
well.
To that. we're going to be on YouTube first of all. This is our second podcast in our sort of nerdy section or whatever way you want to describe it. Give us a like, comment, whatever. We're going to be trying to get on Spotify, all that there, but we're pre-recording these, and then we're going to try and get stuff out for, it's the 25th of January. We're going to have the first week in February. We're going to try and start releasing stuff. We're going to be on Instagram at the Irish Guys, Twitter Irish Guys. We're going to try and start to get everything sorted and out for the sort of first week in February. But
so make sure to look up our socials, like our video, socials, comment, subscribe, and thanks very much for listening.
Say bye, everybody.
Bye. Everybody.
Shut up, Kev.
Good luck, people.